Okay. Sorry, I'm still trying to see if I can share this thing. Share. I have a problem with the button. Yeah, it should work. No. Let's try this. It's giving me some problems with the share button. I'm trying to share it with the people on X. Okay, let's see. Okay, give me one more second, okay? Almost done. All right. Okay. How is everybody doing? My people on Discord are waiting for the link because today we do it here on YouTube. I need to learn how to do it also. I'm learning all these new things, new skills. I need to learn how to do it in the what is called Restream, so I can also do it on. I can show it on X. All right, let's dive in. So this is mostly meant for the new people on the Discord group. So we have a Discord group. If you're not aware, right now it's about, I think it's 600-700 people, and I'm going to put the link on how to join if you want to join us. And the Discord group works where you join. I can show you a little bit how it looks like. But we have many channels. People come in, they share their hey Marok, they share their understanding. They ask questions. It's a very interactive. In fact, I should spend more time there than on X. And these are people that are interested and they want to learn. It's very easy to get. So that is a link. You can go and check it. There is a 7 days free trial. The entire idea is that I dedicate my time. I work with you, and you support our work. It's not just me, but I'm getting some developers to do more sophisticated things. There is my son, that is also helping me. So it's a group of us, and you're supporting our work, because even just to have servers and doing other things, it costs money. So, and then trying to do this as my full-time job, so I can focus on helping people understanding Bitcoin. But so it takes $5 to join, and with $5 you get the main indicators that we have. And then we have a package where it's $20 per month, where basically you get everything we have done so far, plus anything we are going to do in the future, because I made a promise. I'm not going to make it more expensive, unless there is some crazy inflation or whatever. And so as I produce more things and I'm trying to create at least one indicator every month, you're getting the same price. So, and they started to also put put more stuff on the shop where right now, for example, there is an interactive, it's not interactive, but it's a chart that updates itself every day, and it's written in Python, and you can get it for free if you are part of our group. And you can download it, you can look at it, you can play with it because it's in Python, so you can download Python if you want to learn how to code. And so this is also talking to the people in the group already. We have 4 meetings every week. We meet on Monday like this, where we talk about the indicators and we give like some basic training about how to use them and what they tell us. We have already videos on how to set them up. So please, if you're new, look at the videos because they will tell you how to set them up, and they also give you an introduction. We record all these videos, so we have like a long libraries of all of them. Again, they are all in the Discord channel. It's a channel with past recording of any kind, and it's kind of different every time because it's interactive with the people that participate. There are questions, and we discuss different things. But yeah, so that is the meeting on Monday, basically like this. And then we have on Tuesday we also meet as a group, and it could be anything. You can ask any question about the power law, any doubt, or if there is something that is interesting to you. It's more like coming together as a group and discussing whatever is in our mind or is on our mind. And then on Wednesday, actually Thursday, we discuss, and these meetings are all around 3 p.m. PST, and then there are people all around the world that join. Hopefully we can try to do meetings in other times. Maybe my son, he lives in Estonia, so Europe, you could maybe do meetings when I'm asleep. And we can try to do that. If there is any volunteer that wants to, in Asia or anywhere else, that wants to take over, I'm open with that too. But anyway, yeah. So, and then on Thursday we discuss the book Scale, that is very relevant to understand power laws in general. So, very beautiful book. I'm trying to do them more structured, where I'm doing like mini lectures. So I will tell you what I'm going to cover every week. You can read ahead of me, and then I will give you like a mini lecture to summarize it, and then we can discuss it, have like different questions, things that maybe you didn't understand from the book. And when we finish, hopefully we will have all these recorded, so you can go back and check. I will put them on YouTube. We can cover eventually other books that are also relevant, right? Or maybe articles. I will try to also alternate and sometimes cover articles and other things, research what other people have done on Bitcoin, because there is a lot of scientific research, right? And this is our angle, that we want to do everything based on science, on mathematics, things that are reliable to understand what is going on with Bitcoin. So we can look at some of these papers and summarize for you. I will tell you what is essential in the paper. So it will be an interesting thing to do. And then on Friday, we meet together and we talk about coding. So I know that many people are learning coding through ChatGPT, that is great. And you can ask him to do this and this other, but many times you need to debug a little bit what ChatGPT did, because maybe he made a mistake. If you don't know how to code, it's very difficult to do that. Or maybe you can do more things if you know how to code, and so, or at least you can also do that. We can learn how to do prompts with ChatGPT, so everybody can actually learn a lot very fast, because you don't need to study for years to be a good coder. If you use ChatGPT, and so we can learn how to do good prompts that are relevant, right, for understanding Bitcoins. And then we can look at the code that is producing and see, okay, is this optimal? Can we change it? Can we fix the bug? But that is what we do on Friday. Last time, just to give you an idea, we learn how to do the power law in 3 different ways: linear, log linear, and log log. So if you want to come, I think next time we go deeper because we did the code, I share the code with everybody. By the way, the code is in the shop, in the Patreon shop. And if you can download it, everybody can download it, but it costs something. Patreon, by the way, doesn't allow you to make something zero in the shop, but I can make it zero for the group, for the people in the group. So if you join the Discord group, then you can download it for free and use it. So this is how we meet. So please try to be active in the group. People share different things. By the way, Saving Face is here. I see his magician hat, his wizard hat popping up, and he's one of our moderators. In fact, a very, very, very active moderator. Is always useful. He shows us all the time different very beautiful modes that he did of the indicators, and so he shares the code with us and how to do it. And there are many other people that are testing all kind of things. We are not against halts. We have a semi-maxi approach where we don't discuss halts anywhere else. It's not allowed to discuss it in the general channel. Nobody is getting angry if you just mention something, but we don't like somebody repeating, "Oh, this is amazing coin," etc. We all mostly Bitcoiner maxis, but we do have a channel. It's called There Is No Second Best But. So you can go there and discuss your second best, what you think that is a second best or a third best. And it's kept in that channel where you can discuss as much as you want other coins, but you are in the ghetto, right? You're relegated there. So it's a good compromise between being focused on Bitcoin and at the same time, allowing people to express themselves. So this is how it is. Now, if you have other questions, we do have also other signals that are coming every week. It's basically a chart. It is very nice. We're going to make an interactive version of that chart. But right now, the one on Discord is fixed, but is updating every day. And it's a very beautiful one. I don't know if you saw it. It's this group of developers in Italy that are helping me with that chart. That is also part of the Discord channel. But it's a very nice community. So come and visit us. Even with the free opportunity, right? It's 7 days free. You don't have to pay anything. Come, join. If you don't like, you can cancel it. So yeah. Okay. Anybody has any question about the Discord? What do we do? What is meant for? Whatever. And of course, as things develop, when things come closer to critical moments, and when we're coming closer to the top, etc., the entire idea is that we will have many eyes, right? Instead of being just one person, me telling you, do this and this other, there will be different people with different expertise. We will consult each other, and we will try to make the best choices. Some people sharing their knowledge about options, for example. Some people are doing DCA and telling us their approach. So it's trying to be a community, right? So that is the entire idea. All right, let's dive in the indicators, and I'm going to show them one by one and tell you what they do, because this is mostly the focus of the session. By the way, right now, the main option is TradingView. So everything is done through TradingView. As I say, we are developing eventually something that will be it's basically all based on Python, but you don't need to know Python. It will be like an interactive chart, and we already did some beta testing with the group. It's kind of a separate project, but eventually we think to merge it. We do have another project with these LuxAlgo indicators that they develop for us. I'm trying to see if actually the group in the maybe with a cutoff, the people in the Discord group, they can get it for free. They can get also or maybe like a very big discount, like maybe $2 to get also these other indicators. We have so much expertise that they can do. At least I don't know yet how to do these very cool indicators where we can show a clock on a circular pattern that I don't know how to do with TradingView. Somebody told me that it's not that difficult, but until we know how to do it, we go with Luxalgo work. We spend a lot of time helping us with that. But anyway, let's look at. So you will need to get TradingView, right? So most people understand that because we say these are TradingView indicators. But once in a while, maybe we get an enthusiastic power law supporter that doesn't realize that it's on TradingView. So you need to get TradingView. Now, TradingView is now, you don't have to pay anything for TradingView. You have very limited option. If you don't pay, I think it's worthwhile, even if you are a holder, right? It's nice to know where Bitcoin is, what it's doing, right? You are so interested in Bitcoin, you want to know what is going on with the price, right? With what is happening, where are we in the cycle? And many others are also buying Bitcoin, right? Because they didn't buy just in the past, they continue to buy. So basically, you're doing DCA, and I don't know why you should do, unless you just don't want to worry, you're doing your job, and it's okay. We are not judging anything. If you buy Bitcoin, you are already doing something amazing. So nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to accuse you of anything. So, they do that with us. They call us all kind of names because we want to optimize our approach to Bitcoin. Let them do it, okay? I don't care. We are not going to judge others, etc. But I do have some suggestions where if you use this knowledge that is describing the indicators, then you could do DCA in a smart fashion. Like, for example, we have this indicator here that goes from 0 to 100. So you could think that you could use this as a way of DCA with different weights. So where basically, if you are here, you buy Bitcoin completely. As you go there, and it's up to you, you could do it even every 10%. So let's say we go to this, we are here at 20. Right now, for example, we are something like 44, right? So you will take the number, rounded the number to 10, right? So 40, 60. So that will mean that it will go, if it is below 50, it will go 60% Bitcoin and 40 USDT. Why will you do that? Because now you will have some USDT where if we have a drop, maybe you can buy a little bit more, or you save it. You save it for the long term, where as we go higher and higher, you start to save more USDT. I know it doesn't sound good for many people, but the idea will be that you're trying to avoid buying the top. And then when we go back, you will have a lot of USDT that now you can use to buy back. And it doesn't have to be 10, 10, 10. It could be 20, 20, like every time we go more high, like a factor of, 20% of this indicator 20, because in that way, maybe you buy more Bitcoin and you don't want to buy a lot of USDT, but you can use it, right? You can come up with your own equation. We are also trying to do some back testing and see what is optimal, what is the more optimal approach, in terms of the weight. But it's, this is the idea that even if you don't want to do what most of the people in our Discord group want to do, that is selling at the top here and rebuying at the bottom. And again, we don't do 100%. You can do 10%, 20%. Maybe you can do it in a more gradual fashion with your DCA. So you don't have even to sell anything. You're just optimizing your buying. So this could be used for that too. And there are other options, like, for example, you can use a little bit, you can use a futures contract where you actually borrow. You can use your Bitcoin to buy these futures, and usually use a little bit of leverage, like 2 pair, right? So if we are going up and up and you want to borrow a little bit of and open a future contract with a 2-pair leverage, and we have a lot of signals that are telling us we are in a bull run, why not? You probably, if you do it as a small amount, if you don't use crazy leverage like 100 pair, like when people get liquidated, usually they have like huge, crazy degen leverages and they get liquidated. If you do it with a small amount and you have a lot of reserves in your account, why not? You can make some extra money that you can use to buy more Bitcoin. So be smart. I know that there are all these memes, about hodling and trading being for stupid people. Yeah, maybe if you are stupid, you should not trade. I will say it's the other way around. Stupid people should not trade. I don't think that trading is for stupid people. No, it's not, because they are they do a lot of money. The people that know what to do, they do a lot of money. People that became billionaires, like this Simon guy. He actually used math and physics. He had an entire physics department, math and physics department in his company. Basically, was one of the large. They call it one of the largest math department in the world. And he had all these people. They were mathematicians, physicists, astronomers. People with solid. No, I don't think even was hiring engineers, maybe once in a while, but mostly people with this kind of background, and they were coming up with strategies to make a lot of money with trading. It can be done. Just you have to be very, very careful. And it's not really trading if you open, we are going up, and you open a future contract, for 2-pair, and you're making money while we are going up, and that we are going up, right? We have a lot of indication for that. But basically, I'm trying to say there are many ways to use this knowledge. I don't want to tell you what to do. I want you to explore, and this is why we have the Discord channel. We have different channel for different things. People can interact with each other, learn with each other. We are just giving you the tools. That is the idea. Okay, so let's go in the indicators. So I'm going to switch this one, and I'm going to turn off this one. All right, so this is the one that everybody gets with the $5 subscription. And what this indicator does, it has the blue line, that is the power law, and we call it adaptive. Why it is adaptive? Because basically, as data comes, it recalculates the slope, right? And many people have that question: will the slope change if I'm doing the calculation at different places? And we have done, offline many calculation. Basically, what happened with we show the slope kind of oscillates. And why oscillates is not that the model is wrong. It's just that you have to understand what noise and signal is if you're doing the calculation when you're close to this top of and let me see, maybe you don't see it very well. Let me see if I can change the color. Actually, it's here. Line. I'm trying to see if I can make this line bigger. Okay. Well, I don't want to lose time, but you see the price here, right? You see the price. If I am close to here, the calculation of the slope will be much higher. And because it's influenced by this data. And of course, the influence also became less as you add more and more data. Everything becomes more stable. But basically, here this is what we are doing. We are calculating the slope according to where the data is, and it's done on purpose, not like cheating. Also, because you can see that it doesn't change much, right? This is why it's a little bit wiggly, because it's trying to adapt to the data. But the entire idea is the same model, it's a power law, and it changes a little bit. But the entire idea is to make it more adaptive to where the data is in that moment. One of the advantages, and this is why we do it many different ways. We have also the fixed way, where we don't change anything, and we can compare it. It's not very different, but the main reason we do that is that when, as a consequence of this adaptivity, we get this very nice behavior where we create all these lines. And what are these lines? These lines are based on percentile. I also developed recently a percentile where you say 10 percentile, 20 percentile. These are simply, again, I like to do things in many different ways. That is the purpose of having all these indicators. That you look at the data and you say, okay, what if I look in this way? What if I look in this way? And then you get a picture. It's like when you go to the doctor and the doctor wants a blood test, they want an X-rays, they wants a CAT scan. It does a lot of different tests, and then that allows to get a picture of what is going on. So that is the idea here. This is why we have many indicators. But this one, I like this one because you see how it creates these support and resistance levels, right? So let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see it better. Okay, you see here, for example, here we found the bottom because this is very close to the support line that is created by the power law. I'm not going to explain everything, all the theory behind. I'm assuming most people know all the bases. Eventually, we should have a website that goes through all the things that we have done and all the basics, like explaining that we have this support line, how we find it. But right now, if you have questions, ask the questions. But I'm also assuming that you know most of the ideas behind the power law. So you see how we usually have like a deviation. This deviation is about 60% from the trend, and it works as a support line. So that is a basic support line. But then you can see the other deviations are also working as support and resistance, right? This was like a support. This was like a resistance. You see how the price actually didn't like to be there. It started to correct itself. It tried to go there again. And the beauty of this is not somebody drawing it with some very arbitrary the idea, basically using their eyes. And most of the TA people, this is what they do. They look at two peaks and say, oh, I think these two things are, important. The price will now go. I mean, sometimes they have right. Like if you look at the London Eye, mostly I think it's like one of these self-reinforcing things. People think that thing was important. Oh, in London, the price didn't go higher than that, right? And so they use that as a resistance, for example, right, for the New York session. There is some logic behind that, and at a certain point we could. Oh, by the way, that make me think we could make an indicator like that too, because I notice actually that even Bitcoin follows locally things like these, right? When you are in the New York session, the London Eye, it's a point of reference. Many times the Bitcoin price goes down because it does consider that a resistance. We could make an indicator like that. I kind of already did something like that for NASDAQ. We could do it for Bitcoin. That could be another cool indicator. But if anybody is interested in that kind of stuff, that will mean you maybe want to again play maybe some futures. Try to decide if you want to sell by at that time. But will be more specialized kind of thing. But you see, it's nice, right? It creates all these support, resistance. Again, it is almost like Bitcoin stays along this power law trend, because to be an overall power law trend and at the same time doing other things, it needs to spend a lot of time doing power law things. So, yes, it leaves the power law, because along here is following the power law. So the overall slope is followed, right? And then it leaves, and then it tries to find another power law to go along. It's really kind of cool, that he's doing this. And so all these lines, they work as a support and resistance. So you can use them. What can I use them for? Well, to learn more about Bitcoin in general, what it's doing, but also practically, again, right, you could set an alarm using, if you know how to use it. Sometime we can go through, I can show you how to use the alarms that TradingView has. You could put an alarm and say, listen, I am going along here, and sometimes it takes really like here, right? For example, it was December 3, and it had 10 days later, it had this dip. So I stay there for 10 days. You can say, okay, seems a very stable support. Let me put an alarm both here, so if it is going down, or even here if it's going up, and you could use these as a point of reference, right, for doing different things, buying the dip or whatever. Same thing here, right? So it arrived here. Consider this like basically this was a big resistance, the power law itself, and arrived there. It touched the power law. It didn't like to be there because we were too early, and the price is corrected since. So there is something very interesting in all this, right? In this behavior. Now this indicator has also projections. When I project, think by way, and some people ask me, I need to make it more clear because I'm improving these indicators all the time. And what it needs here is to say 500 days projection, something like this, because basically this is a projection 500 days ahead. It is amazing that we can project anything 500 days ahead. But yeah, this is what I'm doing here. I'm projecting 500 days a day. We could even, what could be cool? We could try and give me suggestion. Like I know, but we do have a suggestion channel. I don't go there often. I should. My intention was good, but I don't go there. I should go there more often and see what people suggest. But you can do it also in the chat here. Okay, let's do this. One thing we could be cool. It's to put like every 100 days, right? A projection and see where the price is supposed to go. And the price is supposed to go where, according to the full model, right? That is where we want to do a projection. We could do it also, maybe switching. People can switch and do it along these lines, Right now, the projection is for the full model. So, see, first of all, I stand these lines in the future, these colored lines. But then I create what is called the full model. So what is the full model? Full model, and I had at one time a discussion with Carl Lassari. I don't know why. He's a great guy. I don't know if on X. But he's a lawyer. I don't know why he wants to discuss things with a physicist like me trying to discuss, law stuff with him. And lawyers hate that. They hate when you do that because they tell you all the time, you're not prepared, you don't know anything about procedural matters, because, like people read something online about the interpretation of a law and they think all of a sudden they are lawyers, and it's not right, It's not appeal to authority, but it's true that people spend years being knowledgeable about a field, you have to be respectful of that. And you still can ask questions. But he was telling me that, you cannot do this adding these components, like what I was trying to explain in my full model. What do you mean? In physics, we do that all the time. We start with a simple model, that is the power law that gives us the general trend, and then you add components. And we know what that means. It means that as you add more components, like modules, right? So imagine I want to describe a trajectory of a projectile. The first thing I do, I just include gravity because it's much easier to describe it in that way. This is how we teach it by way in our physics classes at college. I taught 8 years in college. We try to make it as simple as possible. Then, if you want to do a practical application, you start to include air drag, you're starting to include wind, these computers that are on the artillery right now, even ground artillery, those that for the military or even more in the Navy, these cannons and missiles, they need to consider all these things. Otherwise, in fact, even the rotation of the Earth, all these different things, if you don't include them, your missile or projectile will be completely off from the target. So what do? You just add modules, where this module have more and more complicated physics. and you're making the model a little bit more imprecise because you're adding, every time you're adding something, you may make it more complex and more noisy too. But it has some advantages. This is why I have both, right? I have a simpler one that tells us the general trend, and then what is called the full model. The full model contains the general direction, so it's a combination. And the beauty of this, by the way, from all the different indicators, is that everything is predicted here. It's now we are not, I say adapting, but it's still based on an equation, right? Because we are adding data, but based on what we think the general trend is. These are, by the way, this white line, it doesn't do that. That is fixed. You use a fixed value of the power law because it's more or less stable. So we use one. Maybe a few months ago we can update it, but right now it's fixed because it works and it's going to work for several years. And then we add the bubbles because we see regularities in the bubbles, and so we added these bubbles, and you see how good job it does in following every single bubble. Okay, like the previous one and also the first one and so on. We usually don't include the bubble that was before the halving because it's a kind of anomaly. But you see how good job it does in picking up the bubbles. Now, here there is interpretation with this first stop actually in the last cycle was not the correct one, was a fake one, So we had to, this was kind of a too early one that we consider not the correct one. And this one, because it's much closer to where all the other bubbles usually appear, we and here you see that according to this model, this one is the correct one. And we are very careful about both the deviations, how big the deviations are, but also the timing. In our approach, because we are building kind of very coherent, very focused, I think also unique way of describing the cycles. We use the halving, we kind of mark them, like here, for example, but we don't measure anything. Now, if there is any added value in measuring things from the halving, we can try. But right now, it's all based on where are the tops, where are the bottoms, what is the different timing in this cycle. And the timing, we do everything with basically seasons. Is it close to the end of the year, etc. To me, it seems to work very well. And I see very few people that use this approach. But it seems so much more regular. And it's not just seen because I did it mathematically. I did a lot of work. Almost everything we do here, I wrote an article about, because I try to explain the methodology. So you can go and read the articles behind it. They are all in my Medium. And also in the BitPoseidon site, where I gave you the link for in the chat to how to join the Discord group. In the same, you can sign up for the newsletter, and you will get all these articles about how to do anything. So how we consider the different cycles, how do we determine the top, all these things. Apologies if there is some background noise. I have a mechanic shop not far away from me. Anyway, so so that is the idea. It has the white line is trying to reproduce the cycles. They are very precise timing for years, almost to the dot. It's not that I don't believe. Again, I don't believe in anything. Everything is calculated. I don't think there is any evidence of a time stretching of the cycles. They are so precise, basically like a clock. There is no evidence of super cycles. I don't know where people come up with stuff like that. I look at the data every single day for many hours a day, and I don't see any evidence of that stuff. I don't know if it is a gimmick for people to talk about it. I don't know if they're kind of confusing themselves and finding things. But he's a very, very popular person that thought, for example, that we reach the top of this 70K, where when we arrived to the power law, was the type of a cycle. This guy is followed by thousands of people. I'm not jealous. I'm not trying to put down other people. In fact, I will not mention his name. I'm just saying, I don't know why people do things like that, right? I don't think there is any evidence for that because the cycles never have done that. Why will you say that? He came up with some calculations, but you can do numerology. I can go and measure the size of of anything around me, a building, and they say, oh, this building contains the secret of the universe, and do numerology with it. It's We are trying to use things that seem to work, like periodicity. These are things that make sense, and other stuff like that. But yeah, by the way, here on this purple line, because I say I'm going to show this every single time talk about these charts. This is what, when people say, well, we will see if a power law works, in the future. Well, the power law has been working. Well, of course, has been working from the beginning because we can predict everything starting from the scratch. But you said, it's kind of, you're going backwards and fitting. It will not fit so well if it didn't work, but it's different if you're actually right, starting from the present to the future, right? There is even a name for that. We call it out of sample because you use all this data to fit you create a model, and then you want to see if a model works for the future. Or it's also called forward testing, differently from backward testing. And you see here all this area shown by this purple line is our prediction starting from the future, starting from the present to the future, because this is when we discover the power law. So we have been right all this time, right? So hopefully this gives you confidence. Now, the last thing about this chart, and by the way, this model is also trying to approximate, and that, again, remember, I'm trying to do it with one single formula, right? So it's not easy to catch all the components, the general trend, the top, the bottom. So it's trying also to approximate the bottom. So it's really cool. It has also a lot of information. In theory, you could do everything with this chart because even determining the top, one thing you will say is, well, I'm looking at the price, and right, here is the white line. When it crosses down, right? So it went up. You see how it crosses up here first. When it stayed up above the Y curve, when it goes down, to me, that is the top. And it did a pretty good job, right, in doing that. So that by itself could be all what you need if you wanted to. But we have all these other signals that help us to make these decisions, when is the top, when is the bottom, etc. This is why we use more than one. But in theory, and this is why we give it to everybody just for $5, this chart could be self-sufficient, and you can learn a lot from it. It does have a projection. I did the projection is 500 days, and they do need to make it. You know why I did in that way? Because when I did it the first time, we could not go all the way to the top, so it was clear because it's only 500 days. That is one of unfortunate limitations of TradingView. Somebody told me there is a way. Actually, Saving Face was telling me there is a way to go further. I need to look at that, but that is as far as we could go. So I say projected, and from the shape it was clear it was not the top, but now it could be confusing to people. That is not exactly the top. So I need to fix that. We can have both. Say 500 projection, top projection, but the top projection is about. I wrote this by hand. It's about 200,000. This is where 400,000. Okay, actually, this 500,000 is, and this is where a million is. They don't look very far away, by the way. I was making a post about that today. But if you go linear, so you see here how there is a little button where you can choose logarithmic or linear. If you go linear, by clicking here, you can see how crazy these yeah, you see, they are not even visible. Let me pull down these. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So here where 500,000 is, and I would not need to put this even down. And these where a million is. Okay. They look like insane to reach these values there. It's crazy. So it's very unlikely that happens. Okay. I'm going to stop for a second, see if anybody has any questions on this first indicator. Hopefully, we can go through the other more quickly. All right. Right click to the settings. Yeah, saving face is here to help me all the time. He's my right hand. He always tell me the solution for all kind of problems. He's very good expert. But yeah, okay. Do you have any questions, guys, on this particular indicator? Anybody wants to ask any questions? What any specific question? If you don't, I'm going to the next one. All right, I'm going to turn off this one. And by the way, if in the trading view, the free version allows you to open two charts at once, no more. It's free, but it's a limitation. And you could have different instances, like I have, right? You see all these tabs and different combinations. So in theory, you don't have to buy, but I think it's a good investment. It's not very expensive, and there is so much. You can also look at Nasdaq stocks, SP 500, basically anything you can imagine, silver, gold, other crypto. It's really, really cool. Anyway, I'm going to show you this one. I'm going to make it logarithmic. All right, here it is. Okay, so this basically is there is not much to say about this because it's a simplified version because maybe all that colors, all that lines is confusing. This one, we made it simpler. We use a straight line, we cannot get straight lines. All the calculations are, the math is with power laws, but it's not super easy to make a log graph. There is not a little bottom, a second bottom, and say, hey, do also the log of a time. Why? Because while in physics we do that all the time, which is something that we are used to, in finance things it's not used because there are not many things that behave like power laws. Mostly they are exponentials, and if you have exponential, taking the log makes them look very much like straight things. But you will need log for a power law to look like a straight line. They don't have that option. Now, I do have a version, where is it? Here, that looks like a straight line. Look at this, really cool, right? But this is about, you see how they, so I didn't do this. I don't know how they do it. Maybe eventually I will figure it out. But they were able to do this. It's a really cool version of the power law in a log graph. But they created some kind of artificial axis here. You see, it's not the same natural axis that TradingView uses. Like they made some kind of a dock axis. I think that is part of how they achieved this. But I don't know how to do this. Maybe one day we'll do. But this company called LuxAlgo did this for us. It's a collaboration that we did with them. So I kind of like to look at this chart. I'm trying to talk to them to see if people that are in the Discord channel so far can also have access to this one. I need to go back. I think in the beginning they say yes, but it's a collaboration, so we need to agree with it. Anyway, let's go back to our indicators. It's good enough, because it's still curvy, right? You see how it's basically the same curve that we are familiar with, but it's following the power law. So the same thing. The only thing, right, I shade in red the region where the full model is above the curve, above the power law, and green below. You can turn it off if it's distracting, but I think it's cool. Right now, you see how basically it goes like this. We spent 2 years in this region that is kind of below, like the full model is below the power law. And we follow very closely the power law. Sometime when we go away from the power law, there is a big correction. Like same thing here, there was a correction. And then when the bull market starts, we go, one of the crucial events is actually crossing the power law. So when we do that and we cross the power law, not just temporarily, and there are a lot of signs that tell you that is a temporary thing, even basically the time of the year, where we are in the cycle. We are very respectful of the cycle to try to understand what is going on with Bitcoin. So when that is done and everything else shows that we are in a bull market, that is an important event. And not necessarily is the beginning of a bull market. The bull market starts a little bit before, but it's a very crucial point. So we will monitor that in the future. But it's a simplified version, right? So I put here the support line. The support line is about 60. It doesn't calculate by itself. It's kind of done by hand. So we will click here on this bolt, and then you see how you can choose, right? So I put it at 0.4. That basically is a 60% deviation. So, but it's 40% of the value of the trend line. And here you can even adjust the slope, the intercept. I use this one that I calculate offline. If you use the Python code that you can get for free if you go on the shop, if you're a member, you can calculate this slope yourself, and you can use that one if you want it. These adjust, the other ones adjust the shape of this sinusoidal. I need to change this because now we know that are exponential, so I can actually make an even better shape of these bubbles that will look much closer to these V's, kind of upside down V's. But I didn't do that yet. They still do a good job. They kind of look like sine waves. Okay, and there are other things. One thing you can do, you can also, so there is some addition that makes it different from the other one, not just because it's simpler. You can also add liquidity. So it has, it's also a liquidity map. Okay, so if you do this, it will display liquidity levels. Where basically it's what are they used for? It's basically give you an idea of where the price could adjust itself, correct itself. Like in a really bullish move, you can go through all these different. See how here there are different subtle lines, but you can see them, right? And thicker they are, more trades there are in that region. So basically, these are people that are betting for the price to go down or go up, right? The one above, everybody's betting for a correction. So they think if a price goes there, I want to open a short position. So I'm making money as Bitcoin corrects. It's a gamble, right? And some people use like crazy leverage. So even a small correction, they can make a lot of money. They do risk to be liquidated because if a price goes up and it continues to go up and they don't have enough money to cover these positions, then they get liquidated and they lose a lot of money. Same thing with these guys that are here below. It seems that people are very bullish right now. Yeah, actually no, because the fact that there is like a gap here, you see, I don't see a lot of open positions here. In this case, people hope for the contrary, open, but there is a correction down when they buy low, and then they are hoping for the price to go up. Right? So these people, the strongest lines, I see 1 year, um, but yeah, it looks like most people are thinking that the price probably is going to correct down, right? In fact, even big correction, there are people hoping it goes all the way there. I don't think so, right? Because it will be all the way to a support line. Last time it took like COVID to correct all the way to a support line. But you see, maybe some people start to listen to the power law because there is a huge, big number of trades there. People hoping. So people that are hoping that the price corrects all the way there, and then they're open to buy it and having the price go up. So it's additional information that it's there available that you can use. All right, let's move on to the other indicators. So we have this one. Oh, I collapsed it before, but let's make it visible. So this one is basically a clock. So it's based on this idea of rational root, the rational root, that is another analyst. So he had this very good idea. It's not an original idea, like the power law is not an original idea, but both of us need to get the credit because we decided to do it on Bitcoin. And you can think, why nobody thought before? I'm completely aware that you can represent data in that way because we do it all the time in physics. And why you do it in that way? You do it to show periodicity, regularities in particular patterns, that happen in time. You can do it with many different things. Like people do it with temperature, for example, right? Because temperature follows a yearly pattern due to the seasons. And if you want to show the presence of a season, maybe how it changes, like, okay, we have this circularity of a pattern, but look what happened there. The temperature overall is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So you see a spiral instead of seeing a circle, right? You should see something close to not a circle, maybe like more like a egg, because if let's say the top represents summer and winter is the other way around, it will look like something where the top is more prolonged like this because of temperature rise, and during winter it will be a little bit more squeezed, right? And maybe the other two kind of the same because autumn here you will have autumn, you will have here. No, we say summer here, right? So this will be spring, and this will be autumn. They will be kind of similar temperature, right? So it will be a funny shape, kind of maybe like a heart or something. We can look it up, but heart shape thing. And then you can see that over time it becomes bigger and bigger if there is global warming, right? So there are people that have done this. We do all the time with the planets, many different. It's called a polar graph, polar coordinate graph. But I didn't think about putting Bitcoin there, so he was genius in deciding to do it with Bitcoin, right? Even if he didn't invent it, the method, but the idea of applying it to Bitcoin was genius. So I stole it from him. It's okay, right? You can take other people's idea and credit them, improve them. My improvement is this. So it's not exactly the same. First of all, I made a sine wave out of it, so you can actually compare it with the price as a function of time, because otherwise it's just a circle. By the way, we do have a clock like that, this one. So we have a clock as we did it. It is the white one, but also we added the power laws to show the two models. The blue one is in this case is the full model. You see how the full model arrived. It's kind of it's also a spiral, but it's a little bit squeezed spiral. because like I was telling you before, like the temperature is higher here, right? In the seasons, the opposite will be where the bottom is with Bitcoin, because in this clock, every quarter represents 1 year. The bottoms are here actually. So it's squeezed in this direction, it's stretched in this direction. So this will be, see how it's stretched a little bit here, see? The red one, for comparison, is the simple model. So it's an improvement relatively to what the irrational root did, because first of all, now we know why we get this beautiful pattern, because of a power law, because it behaves like a power law. By the way, you can see you see how the distance between these arms of a spiral becomes smaller and smaller? Well, that is the diminishing returns, it's because power laws over time, the returns go down. And so this is shown by the distance between the arms. It's a real thing. And now we know why there is this regular pattern, because it follows the power law, right? The red line is the simple model, the blue line is the full model. So it's really cool. And the beauty of using this now is that rational root cannot do, because it doesn't show the model. He actually agrees that power law is a very good model. You can extend it to the future, right? You can actually use it to make predictions of where the top is, how big it's going to be, because you can extend it to the future. Because it's an equation. It's a very simple equation. It's incredible that a simple little equation can predict the behavior of Bitcoin. So going back to our indicator here, I did it in this way because it's like, imagine I'm taking the hand of a clock, right? And there is a big bright light, and that shines a shadow, creates a shadow on the y-axis. So this is what you're seeing here, is the shadow of that hand of a clock. Now you will say, well, wait a second, a sign should be negative, right? At a certain point, it goes down with 0. Well, if I did that, people will, first of all, you will have to kind of turn your head, because it will be upside down. They see this color band, color-coded curve here is the price, and this weird type of, we call it transformation in physics. And I color-coded in terms of, here the color coding is no way deviation, like in the previous graphs, is the timing. So closer you are to this 12 o'clock time that is basically associated with the top, it becomes redder. So I simply flipped the negative part of a sine wave. So this is why you see a bunch of bumps, right? And but now these bumps represent a different timing. Like I made it also, that is, so I added the power laws, and I made this thing into a clock. So these are not enormous innovation, but some innovation to the original contribution of the rational root. So again, here the red one, and you can tell, right, because you see how the top, the orange curve touches the top. That means it's the full model, because the full model is trying to predict where the tops are, and the red curve is below, because you see during the bull markets, the full model, it's above the simple model, and vice versa. You see, when we are, let me shift this so you can see the little, I'm not very good with doing things online like this with these charts, because I'm too afraid I mess up everything and click always the wrong thing. So be patient with me for a second. Okay. Yeah. So here we are close to a bottom, right? A tree. Here we are close to a top. So what I was trying to tell you, that during this period where basically kind of, it's not really a bear market, because we are still going up according to the power law. This is the part I hate most, when I try to make every panel. I think I need to have a session with Semi-Face, and he will have to teach me how to play with these charts in a more in a more efficient way. But okay, let me drag it up. All right, so you see how here the red model, but this is the simpler one, it's above, right? So they switch because here is above and here is below, because the full model is trying to do both. It's trying to cover the bottom part when we are close to the bottom, and it's trying to cover the top when we are close to the top. So they switch. But the timing here, by convention, we use the top. Now, understand this is a seasonal top in the sense that our way of understanding the cycle is that we start at the end of here, where the tops usually happen at the end of the year where the top is, right? So, for example, here was the year 21, right? We had the top, and the top happened around mid-November, and then there was the end of the year, that is here. So basically, the tops are always happening at that time, where for the clock, at the end of that year, and we give a value here what it was. We could also report. We could call it end of a cycle or whatever. Maybe it's again, it's a work in progress. Maybe we can make it clear that it's supposed to be the end of a year. What was the price at the end of the year? Maybe we can call it something else when it reaches the real top. But I made it in this way, again, to make it as simple as possible, because then you can also remember it's all the time, the end of the year. We could all shift everything in November, maybe. I don't know. There are different approaches. But the idea is that because it's so regular, we could make a literal clock out of this. And so the end of the year seems a good place where to place the start of it, place 12. And then you can say, if you are consistent with this terminology, you can say the top is at 11, So yeah, the end of the year is 12, the top is 11. Usually they happen around 11. Anything between 10:30 to 11:30. So because it's better to think in terms of a range. And so that is the usual range. And then if you go 1 year ahead, because every 3 hours represents a year, you're going to have the bottom. Again, the bottom for the clock, because we have everything else to tell where the real bottom is, or an area that you can call the bottom. But if you're thinking calendar time, exactly 1 year, and in fact, you see how this is the end of the year. It doesn't have to be exactly January 1st or December 31st. Right? The idea is like an area. This is why also we color code it, right? So when you see similar colors here, is when you are expecting the bottom. This is what this indicator is about. And this transition from bear to bull probably is the least useful marker. Some people confuse this as being some kind of a top. It's actually the bottom of a sine wave, right? It's just that they flipped it and it looks like a bottom. Otherwise, it would look like the bottom of a sine wave. And I don't think there is anything special happening there. It's mostly like a marker that tells you that, well, basically 1 year has passed by since the bottom. Usually in this region between 6 and 9 is where the halving is. So basically it's telling you can think almost like if this is summer, this is autumn, this is spring. No, actually, maybe we can call. How can we call it? We can call this summer, this spring. Okay, so this will be winter, right? So with this will be, so this will be summer, autumn, winter. So basically, we reach the winter, and we are leaving winter behind, right? And we are going towards the spring. And the beginning of the bull market, you can think like if it is springtime, and then we're going towards the summer, right? And the thing repeat itself like that. And all hours, right? 9 o'clock is when we are expecting the bull. And so the beauty of this, because it's all predictive, you can project it to the future, and you can see where the next bull market starts. But this year, where this cusp, I think this is the English term for this. Really, here, if you did the sine wave, will be the time where the line goes down, crosses zero, because we flipped it in this way. It creates that little V shape. I think the technical term for that is a cusp. So that cusp tell us, it's a nice marker, right? Because it's easy to see. Tell us where the bull market starts, 9 o'clock. And so it's around November, December 24. You see how consistent the picture is. It's much more easy to remember. You remember all these dates, like, okay, end of a year, and then you can project it to the future, because the top, where is the top is going to be? Again, kind of the end of the year, next year. You take 1 year for the bull market to happen. See, it's like, really, I say, it's like a driving with the lights on. I wish I had these, even the life cycle, because I started to think about these things. I started to identify the bottoms and the top, but I didn't have a full picture like I have right now. Even interacting with the people in X helped me actually to understand better and trying to communicate all this information. But I think we got it. We have a very, very complete picture under the premises, right, that we don't know. That is where the big mystery is, if all this is going to be repeated in the same. That is the premise that we are working on. If it doesn't happen, I don't say that all this is not useful, because we can still compare with what happened with the other years. We have deviations that are still a guidance for us, because if a price deviates, we have a liquidity. We have many other things that will also work if a cycle starts to do something weird. But when you put it together with this very, very clock-like regularity, it becomes incredible. It's like, I know everything. I know Bitcoin like the palm of my hand. Not me, anybody that uses these indicators. But it's not me. It's how beautiful Bitcoin is. So I really hope that it continues to do like the same thing, because then we can take a lot of actions. Becomes like a paradise for, quote unquote, the trader. If you want to call trader somebody who wants to take some profits at the top and rebuy at the bottom, it's not really trading, but it's more really balancing your portfolio. But okay, whatever, clever traders, they don't do it on a daily basis, but anyway, this is what this clock indicator does. It projects us to the future, where the bull market starts, where the top is supposed to be. This is all what this is. Again, I'm going to look for any particular question, if there is any questions. Do you think it's possible the top comes? So Leo Mignonu, hopefully I don't mispronounce your name. My phone. Okay. Do you think it is possible the top comes in earlier this cycle, considering liquidity rising and the stock market topping than possible recession? So there are all these other conditions that can make things happen slightly different. So for example, I don't like to make up stories, but because unless the stories are backed by math and by evidence. But so we can make a story about what happened last cycles, why we had the two tops, right? Why we had an early top, and a very reasonable story that has a lot of evidence behind it. It shows a pattern, because I don't like when people say, oh, if this happens, and then we don't have any evidence for that, right? But here something happened, and we can try to understand. It's much better to start with the evidence and then trying to reconstruct what happened, because otherwise it's wishful thinking. So in this case, we could have said, because of the liquidity created by the COVID event, you see, this is COVID, and there were a lot of stimuli that not just US, but different nations gave to people, like basically checks, so they could pay their bills, etc. But people started to use it to, some of them gamble, some of them bought Bitcoin. It was a good thing, but that created a push for the price to go high, and we went too high, And when we go to the liquidity indicator, I will show you there was not enough liquidity to support that, because this is what our indicator is going to tell us. And usually that is a warning sign that there will be a correction. It takes some time to react, but then there is a correction. And then we still add another bubble because I think there is something fundamental that we still need to explore that makes these things happen regularly. So I still need it. It still add the need for some reason to say, well, wait a second, I'm not happy to have a top there. I want to have my regular topping, have a regular time, and they still add one here. So could something like that happen this year? I don't know. I don't see like a large event like COVID that created the condition for this. If it was like some kind of a crisis, that also meant the price corrected, right? Because there was a COVID and the price went there. I know that some people are talking about how China is printing like crazy. That is one thing I want to do, by the way, in my liquidity indicator, kind of separate with different contributions of a different parameters I use to calculate liquidity. So we can actually zoom in and say, okay, this is actually what the United States does, this is what China does. We can do that as the next improvement. Right now, I put everything together. But you see that when we go to the liquidity, we will talk about liquidity in a moment, it's going very fast up. So could it be that that anticipates things? I don't know, because these are very difficult things to calculate. We have a tool to monitor everything. When we do to the volatility indicator, I show you how we can actually predict ahead of time where we are actually going as it happens. Because as we get more information, and now it's all predicted on, the cycles, the top. Because, by the way, for the people that don't know, I can calculate the top by the fact that there is a decay of the top. I wrote an entire articles about it. You can read. Again, go to my Medium. And it's basically because we observe this very precise decay of the top, we can make a prediction of the next one. This is how we come to this 200,000. Because basically, I use when we are supposed to have a top, that is the end of 25, and I can calculate the trend there. Then I can say, okay, if a decay continues to be, I'm expecting this decay. The trend, it's about 150. We are going to have a deviation, supposedly, of about 80%. And when you combine these two things, you get 200,000. This is how I do it. And again, all that is based on the idea that this decay will continue to exist. We don't know anything about this decay. Why there is such a decay? What is due to? It's one of the things we are exploring, because I'm trying to explore everything and trying to make sense of everything. It would be nice to have a team of people. We are building a team. There are people that are joining, some other science people that are trying to help me with the analysis. But everybody's doing their own thing, and not very coordinated. But one day, maybe my dream is to create an institute to study Bitcoin. Anyway, so it's difficult to say if we are going to have a second, an early bubble, because it's one of the most difficult. But we can monitor it. We can monitor and say, hey, we are moving very fast, right? Like we can look at the return. The return in the last couple of weeks, a month, if we extended this return, because during a bubble, we follow a very, very precise pattern. Like they are very consistently up, like in an exponential fashion. So we can kind of extrapolate that and say where we are going, and are we on the path of 200,000? Are we in the path of 300,000? So we can monitor the situation as it happens. Okay. And in fact, this leads me to the next indicator, that is this one, that is called the Hurst indicator. And this indicator is really cool. It's actually based on a paper that I read that it was called, the title was even cool. It was called Chaos and Order in Bitcoin's Market, in the Bitcoin's market. And they were making all this claim. It was very early on paper, I think around maybe 1918, and they were claiming that they saw all these orderly behavior in all these properties of Bitcoin. In fact, for example, if you look at the fractal properties of Bitcoin, they found out all these beautiful power laws. And they say, well, this is very peculiar about Bitcoin. Also, it looks like the general pattern is very orderly. They almost discovered the power law. They were very close. But in the title they mentioned power law. It's a really cool paper, and so I kind of reproduce this very complicated math. In fact, if you start from scratch, you will see TradingView thinking. It takes a little bit to load this indicator because of TradingView can do calculation. I don't know what is the limit of this capability, but if the calculation is a little bit more complicated than the usual stuff, it's a little bit slow. It's not meant for that kind of things. It's more meant to do the simple stuff. People are trying to push it. So I think it's pushing TradingView to its some of its limiting calculating stuff. But so it does this calculation and calculates this spatial modification of this parameter that basically look at the fractal nature of a price action and is able to distinguish between different regimes. And the main ones, so I start with something complicated, but then the output is actually something simple to interpret, at least, the superficial level. But basically there is a cutoff that is 0.5. So the indicator goes from 0 to 1. And anything that is above 0.5 is supposed to be trend following. You see how we went up, right? This was the ETF. This is the ETF injected a lot of money and also created FOMO and pushed the price up. And we did it pretty consistently until we reached the power law. And you see how this indicator started to go above 0.5. What does it mean? It means it's trend following. So if you are above 0.5, we are trend following. So it's pretty cool because it's not certain, but there is a very high, because everything is probability with this kind of things, very high probability that the price will continue to go up. And then when we reach it's lagging because it has a window, so it needs to gather stats, so it will never be perfectly coordinated with the underlying action. It's more like deciding kind of a trend of a situation. And so when we reach the power law, we started to reverse, and it was still kind of following a trend, also because, remember, it's taking consideration of the past information given that it has a window. I don't remember what is the window. I think 256 days. And then eventually it went in this region that is below the 0.5, saying, oh, I think this thing is oscillating. But you can kind of look with your eyes. But it's interesting that, we are not changing right now, even with the price going up. In fact, it had a correction, right? Many people thought we started to go up. Maybe it was the beginning of a bull market, blah, blah, blah. And I was worrying everybody, not yet. And in fact, there was a correction. And this thing is telling us that we are supposed to go back and forth for a little while. We will see something like this where we will reach some kind of a bottom here, then reverse, and then, again, probably everything will be all coordinated here, where the liquidity everything seems to point to this direction. Our understanding of timing, maybe the Hurst indicator will go around and be like a bottom. The liquidity, everything points to the fact that we are not ready for the bull market. You need to be patient another month or so, and then we will have a bull market. So this other indicator is really nice. It's basically a deviation. It shows the deviations from the trend. And we have many different ways of presenting the deviations. You can do it in, like the simplest one is you take the price, you subtract the trend, and then you divide by the trend. That is actually the classical way of doing it, and is it's called percent deviation. But if you divide by the trend, and see, I have all these choices because this is our oscillator. I'm going to add here many other ways of doing oscillators. Anything that will be useful, we can add it here, so you will have like a library and you can compare it. So this one, it's more pedagogical or maybe historical. If you are curious, you can go and look and say how big all these other peaks were relatively to the other ones, right? Look at these, how big was relatively to this one. It's crazy, right? And the first one was even crazier. The first one, we don't model it in our full model, but look how enormous it was. And this was like 10 times the trend. And this one a little bit less. Was like incredible. Imagine if we had something like that right now, right? In fact, actually more than that. It's 1,500%. That means basically 15 times, right? We were 15 times. Imagine if that happened, right? Will be cool. I will not have any problem, I will even start to talk about good thing about SF. I'm kidding, but still. So mostly the usefulness is something like this, right? If you are curious about Bitcoin behavior, learning about Bitcoin, what it did, and you can kind of compare it. For our purpose, right, to identify the top and bottoms is not super useful because you don't know how big the next one will be. Even if I tell you, you will still. It's nice if we could find a way of normalizing where all the tops are basically the same height. That would be really cool. And there are different attempts here to do that. So first of all, you could try to divide by the price instead of a trend. If you do that, it looks like this, where these tops are more normalized, but they kind of lose some of the sharpness. Maybe there is some use in this. This is why we do it in many different ways. Maybe it's cool to look at, Um, I don't think it's super useful. I wanted to have it there. Then we have, if you divide by the mean, where you're trying a compromise between the, the sharpness of the first one and the normalization. So they are not perfectly normalized, but they start to be normalized. For normalized, I mean, I want the top to be similar heights. So this one is basically a compromise between the two. So it kind of does a decent job. But the best one is this one, where, remember, we had, I told you about the decay. We simply correct for the decay. And now all the tops are the same. It is really cool. It looks really nice. It's very sharp. It shows both tops here. But the idea is that now we have an indicator that goes from 0 to 100. So it's very consistent. And you can use it for DCA. Like I say, you could start to DCA out based on where we are on the scale. But it's it really almost pinpoints, because anything that comes really close to 100, basically, it's hot territory, and probably you want to collect some of the gains, right? So lock some of your gains and then use that to buy Bitcoin later. That is what we have in mind, by using this indicator. Or, like I say, you can borrow money, you can against your Bitcoin, you can open options, like put options maybe against. Right now, you can even do it with the ETF because we approved. I don't know if it will be available in time by the time we reach the top. But you can do put option for MicroStrategy. So really cool. I love this indicator. I think it's one of the most useful ones. And right now, just to give you an idea, we're around 45. So we are not yet above the 50 line that will indicate, we are above a power law. That is kind of a crucial time. Here, kind of by hand, draw this line. That is how I'm expecting this thing to go up, right? It should start to go up like this, and then reach more or less here at the end of 2500. So this is where I'm expecting this thing to go. I'm going to check very quickly if there is any question, then we can move on. Okay. No questions. Let's move on. We want to talk about liquidity. So this is the liquidity indicator. How, again, I wrote an entire article on how I created this indicator. Here, these are the power law. The power law, the general power law is the red line. This kind of reference line with this like very big deviation. This one is supposed to be the support. So it's like I try to simplify the power law, but the purple line is the main indicator here. So basically shows, I went and studied the relationship between global liquidity, and I included a bunch of different parameters, right? And right now the limitations, they are all weighted equally, but eventually I can improve that by giving appropriate weights to the different contributions. But I created this purple line that is supposed to represent the relationship between the global liquidity and Bitcoin. And in doing that, it's much better than simply drawing, like many people do. They draw the liquidity on top of the Bitcoin price. It's also interesting, but this is more useful, I think, because basically it's telling us, given the observed relationship, right? You plot the price in the y-axis, you plot the liquidity in the x-axis. So basically you're saying, what if the liquidity predicted the Bitcoin price? Is there a relationship? Yes, there is. It looks very complicated though. And using that complicated relationship, I made this model. So basically the purple line is what the price of Bitcoin should be if it was due to the relationship between liquidity and price. Evidently, it's not, because otherwise it will be, it's not always true, because if it does a decent job, right, in kind of following Bitcoin's price, but not perfect, right? And then once we have something like this, it's a question of interpretation. What does it mean? My interpretation is that it's a useful interpretation, that there are areas where the purple line is above, and so we can think about that like an excess of liquidity. So if a price is undervalued, we have enough liquidity if you wanted to, but the sentiment here is a question of sentiment. We are below because we went through a bear market. People are not very confident. We're starting to build up confidence. Here we were too confident, because of the injection. See, actually, that is interesting because the liquidity brought in by the ETF was not enough to actually justify the price. And in fact, the price corrected, because the price seems, when it goes up, it seems that it's supported. It can go up by two things, like if it is disconnected from the liquidity, is during times like this where we overstand and then there is a correction. Same thing here. We overstand when there is a correction. So if there is not enough liquidity, the price will overcorrect. And during the bubbles, we always are in a situation where there is more liquidity than we know what to do with it. So there is a bull. It's almost like a precondition, right? So you can see that every single time we had a bull, we did it when there was a lot of liquidity available, every single time. So maybe there are other things to learn from this chart. That is one of the things, that it seems that we need to have green for the bull to start. And you can see when the price goes too high, it's kind of doesn't have enough liquidity, so it corrects itself. That is kind of almost a definition of a bubble. So it's almost like an alarm, right? The peak doesn't exactly happen when we start to see red, but it's kind of a bad sign, right? And this is another thing where I think it's very unlikely we reach 400, 500,000 because we could be driven by FOMO maybe to 300, but then the price will correct. There will be not enough liquidity to support a continuous. It's simply how the universe works. These dreams that, oh, we reach 300,000, it will continue, will go exponential. It's nuts. This is not how markets work. Absolutely not. They have cycles, they have corrections. We can have an overall growth like Bitcoin has, but it needs to have corrections. If a price overextends, it's going to correct, and so on. That is just how things work. And right now, if you look at the current situation, it seems we are going in the direction where the liquidity is building up, but we are still red. So where if let's say that the price continues this oscillation up and down, and maybe it corrects a little bit more, and it goes, in the high 50s, maybe low 60s, and the liquidity goes up like that, then we start to see green, and then maybe at that point the price will start to go crazy, and the bull will run. Here you see the same thing, but now it's like I subtract, like this one, we subtract the price from the purple line. You can see it's shaded. This one is the power law, subtract, the price subtracted from the power law, and the blue line is the purple line subtracted from the power law. So you can look at these patterns, see if there is anything useful. I added this cycle, that is the Howell cycle. Basically, this is a famous liquidity expert that came up with a 65 month cycle. And this cycle seems, for the first time actually, seems to peak where we are expecting the Bitcoin cycle peak. That is very interesting. That could be maybe what it does brings us to 300, instead of 200. The fact that they are coordinated this time. All right, I'm going to stop for a second, see if there is any questions about this. Saxon Smith asks, so for the first peak in April of 21, it's not true one as in that following the 4-year cycle. Do you think the 4-year cycle without less important? No, because we did that. So that is one of the things that many people claim, that it was basically a violation of a cycle perfection. It would have been better to have a single peak and would have been less confusing, but we had a peak where it was supposed to be, and so we have 2 peaks. There was an early one, it was an anomaly. So that, again, look, it's an interpretation because we don't have a lot of these peaks. If we had hundreds, we could say, well, okay, it happened only 20% of the time where we had peaks. We had another, so it's not even true that it never happened before, because if you look at the first cycle, see, now it's so smooth. Sometimes maybe because I had too many things open, I don't know, but now it's very smooth. So if I go to the first cycle, look at this, right? So maybe we don't remember, or many people were not around, or maybe looking at the chart, nobody claims this one, because first of all, it happened. When did it happen? This happened also in April. See, it happened in April, March, April. So this one, I think people maybe kind of overlook this one because it was not higher or similar height than the real bubble, the real top that happened here. And so this is why many people don't think about this. But look at this. We had kind of an early top. People could have thought this was the top. People didn't think about cycle, believe me. I was there, and nobody had a clue that we actually had a cycle. We were very worried about these bubbles like this one, because everybody thought that we will never recover, and instead it recovered. And then, everybody said, oh, this was whatever, an anomaly, we recover. And then we went through this kind of stuff, and people were like worried. But some people started to think that maybe we are going to have these situations where the price goes up and then it corrects very strongly. But it was nerve wracking at that time. Right now we have better understanding of these kind of things, but at the time we didn't. But you see, this was another one. So it's possible that there is always some kind of, like, maybe this was very small that we didn't even pay attention, right? Okay, all year, I don't know. This seems much smoother, right? This cycle was almost textbook like this. You follow the power law. The cycle went up exponentially, almost perfectly. To be honest, I would love it. Everything was like that because it will be much easier to know what to do and predict ahead. But there is still a lot of regularity. So we had this. So I don't think there is no reason to think that it broke a cycle. Just sometimes things are a little bit more complicated. Now, in practical terms, what will you do? Because that is also part of the question, right? Will you sell at a time? That is a very good question. It's not what you ask, but I'm going to ask that question, right? So if I was in a situation, because this is what will happen when the bull market starts, right? If we had a situation like this, we will have to make decisions. Which kind of decisions we make? I will say that you want to look at everything. You want to look at the liquidity. You want to look at the deviation. You want to look at where we are in the cycle. And you're trying, and this is why we have a community too. We are going to put our heads together and say, let's say we imagine we were in a situation like this, and we, right now, right, we could even do it like we can, the TradingView allows you to play like a little movie or replay of a different events in those show the future, and we could pretend and say, hey guys, what will you do, right, if we were in this situation? Some people will say, well, we are so far away that maybe the cycle is broken, this is the top, guys. You will not be wrong, right? So if you go with, let's say, the extreme case, I don't want to, I don't think it's a good idea to sell more than 50%. So you sell 50% and you still have a bunch of Bitcoin. So actually, because you sold, I think it will be in real time, it will be really difficult as price goes down to think that the price will recover. So, you will have to be, I don't know. I don't know if we can find a way to say, there is a correction here. Maybe you see here the indicators goes up, but I don't want to mislead people and say, oh yeah, you could have see this bottom and rebuy there and then sell there. Okay, what you can do, you can rebalance the portfolio. So as the price corrects itself, you look at much cash you have relatively to your Bitcoin, and as Bitcoin value itself more, and you calculate what is the value of your portfolio in terms of percentages, say, look, I'm exceeding the 50%. Let me sell a little bit more now that there is a second top, because you will look also the timing, say, oh, okay, seems that it does want to have a top where we usually have it. And you wait for it, you have all the other indicators that tell you that we have reached the top, and then you can sell a little bit there, or maybe you can rebalance your portfolio. So, we will have to be aware. We have this map. At the same time, right, you go in a known territory, you just don't simply continue to go on a road and you see there is a bridge that is broken. Say, hey, the map says there is a bridge there. Let me go, right? And you see with your eyes the bridge is broken. You combine both, right? You combine the knowledge from the map and what your eyes tell you, and you're trying to put it together, right? And so this is how we are going to do it. We are going to be very aware, very observant, and make decision based on all this information. That is our approach. It's safer to use leverage around the bear market. I think it's safe to use small leverage. In fact, I do. Right now, I have what is called a martingale. Basically, it's a clever way of doing DCA. As the price goes down, I'm buying, and I'm buying more and more, and I'm doing it with a small little leverage, so I don't need to sell my Bitcoin, or I don't need to have even USDT. I don't have USDT because I use my USDT to buy Bitcoin. If I make any USDT and buy more Bitcoin, but because I have all these Bitcoins sitting on exchange, and somebody was making fun of me, say, you just made British Shadows. You just made $5,000 in 20 days. First of all, how many of you will be happy to make $5,000 in 20 days? I think a lot of people, right? Even rich people will not laugh at $5,000 in 20 days. Some people, very rich people, that is nothing, but still, and I was not using all my money. It was a test anyway. And I would not want to have a lot of money sitting on exchange anyway, So when you do these things, you always do it with a little portion of what you have, what you feel okay, And so, and you have to have much more because of a game that I'm doing. I'm having a big pool, much bigger than right now. I'm trading like 12,000. I don't know. I think it is. Making 5,000 by playing 12 is not bad at all, right? And so I'm what I'm doing. I have this 12,000, but it's just a portion of my portfolio, and is creating these trades, and allows me to what we did it. I'm working with actually this company that's this very good trading system, and I'm consulting with them because we are using the floor of a power law, our worst case scenario. So we are, and in fact, a little bit lower than that. So we are saying, let's divide that by a bunch of possible trades. And every time we go down, we kind of double down. We double down. And the reason to double down is that when you take the average of that, because you're making it heavier and heavier as you go down, it will be not exactly the bottom, but kind of close to the bottom. And if I buy there and then the price corrects, because my bet is betting against Bitcoin betting the Bitcoin is going to recover. It is a very good bet. It's the best possible bet that you can do, right? Because we know that Bitcoin is going to go up. And so this is a very good approach, right? It's very safe. Nothing is perfectly safe, but it's a pretty good approach because you're not going against Bitcoin. You're going to say, yeah, look, it's kind of a clever buying the dip type of approach. It's just that you're doing it by doubling down every time it goes down, so you get the best possible price. Ciao, saving face. And sorry if it takes this forever. It's supposed to be like a big introduction to everything. So if it is long, you can come and watch it later or whatever. But I want to answer all the questions, etc. So I don't mind to stay a little bit longer. Yeah, so that is how I'm doing it. And if you do it with to leverage, and you're doing it with a small portion of your money, and you have a lot of because, for example, on Bybit, they allow you to do this unified account, whatever it's called, and so basically using your Bitcoin as a reservoir. So it's almost impossible to get liquidated. I won't say for sure, but nothing. It's for sure, but it's very difficult to get liquidated if you do it in that way. Now, the question is, what will you do when the market goes down, right? The beauty of what we are doing is that if everything goes according to plan, we know where the bear market starts and where it ends. But again, can you do that with almost anything? No, only with Bitcoin. And again, based on this idea of the cycles are regular, etc. But even that we can monitor. Is going to be risky. For sure, betting against Bitcoin is always risky. So, I will say that you want to probably be very, very careful when we go down. I will use even smaller leverage when you do when we go up. In fact, probably when the bull market starts, this is where maybe you want to have a little bit higher of a leverage, maybe 3 or 4 instead of 2 or 3. But again, do it with a small little amount. Don't do the giant things, and have plenty of margin to avoid being liquidated. Because with Bitcoin going up, you never lose. Eventually Bitcoin will recover and go up. But with the bear, I do want to use the bear to multiply my Bitcoin, not simply by selling at the top, but even opening some leverage position as we go down, some option, some put option, maybe ETFs, maybe MicroStrategy, but we need to think more carefully about what we are going to do, right? We need to be a little bit more careful. So anyway, this is kind of concludes the liquidity. We have 2 more to go. Let's be patient and let's go. So we have this one that is the volatility. So what did I do with this one? Let me reorganize it. Okay. So this one is pretty nice because what it does, it calculates the returns. What are returns? Returns is the price today over the price yesterday. And so it goes from, it can be less than 1 or above 1. If it is above 1, it means it was a good day. You had a good return on Bitcoin. If it is below, basically was a bad day. And you can average it over a certain amount of time, and this is what we see. So the white ones are each single day. So if we are below 1, what is missing in this chart? A line. I need to add it as soon as possible. A line that says 1. Maybe red color or something. So if we are below that red line, it's a losing day. If you are above, it's a winning day. And this is what this gray little chart line shows. It's every single day. Now this green and red line are one standard deviation, so you can look for large deviations in both directions. In this case, this will be a good dip to buy. This probably, if you are trying to do some little trading, this will be a good place where to sell, and things like that. But the white line is the average of the returns, and you can choose from a little bolt. You can choose the amount. It can be 10 days, 100 days. In this case, I'm using 150 days. So I'm averaging over close to 5 months. The returns, the return over the last 5 months. The blue line, it's the power law. It's the return that you will expect if we follow that perfect line, right? This is why it looks so regular, because it's just a straight line. But you can calculate the return of the power law, and this is what they are. And you see how over time, if you go back, that blue line goes through the middle of a white line, because in average, you see the power law, it's not just some simple line, a line for, it's really a deep regression. A deep statistical property of Bitcoin. You see, in average, the returns follow the power law returns. See, historically. And we are going down. We're going down because even if it's slowly going down, maybe you don't see that, but it's actually going down. Well, it was obvious in the beginning because the returns were crazy, right? Just to give you an idea, the first year, the annual return was 56 times, right? So you could make 56 times your money in a single year here in the beginning. And you see how it decays very quickly. And then it looks almost flat, but it's still going down. So today, for example, to give you an idea, the returns are about 0.1% per day for the power law. This is how much we are supposed to do. If you annualize that, it's about 46%. And we are going down. That is unavoidable if we continue to go along with power law. They are still amazing, but we are going down. Now, what the purple and green line represent? They represent where we are supposed to be if we want to go there to 200,000. So the first one, the green line, basically we want to see this white line climb, and the market there, where the region where we want to see that, because this will be the bull market, right, in between these two dates. where I'm expecting the bull market to be. And so the price here, the white line, needs to climb, and we consistently close or above that green line for us to reach 200,000. And that is, remember I told you 0.1% is what we do right now, the blue line. That line is 0.33%. So during the bull market, in average, every day, we need to do about 0.3%, 0.33% compounded all the way to $200,000. If we are below, we are not going to make it. If we are above, we are going higher. This is 500,000. We will have to be close to that. A million, it's much higher. It's a little bit higher than that because it's compounded. I think I don't remember if it is 1.700, so 0.77% to make a million, 0.66, 500,000, 0.33, 200,000. Right now, we are actually below the power law if you look at the last 150 days. So it's actually cool because as we come here and we enter the bull market, we can monitor it. We can look at the last 50 days, the last 100 days. So we will need a few days because it's all based on stat. So you want to have enough information. But I think I will say even after the first month of a bull market, the second month of a bull market, we can look at the last 2 months and say, hey, what was the average return? Was it above 0.33? Okay, well, maybe we go to 300,000. Well, was it below? It's going to be, what I found out is very consistent. So it cannot be too low, or because if it is too low, we are not going to make it. I mean, it's okay to have variations, but if you start to average over a few months and it's too low because it's so consistent going up, like basically in an exponential, it means that it's very unlikely we will make it. Of course, it could be that it recovers, it starts to go faster, but in general, that is going to be a bad sign. So let's see how it goes. So this will be a monitoring tool that allow us to kind of predict ahead of time where we are going, what is the trajectory. So it's pretty cool. Other indicator. And then I have another one that is the latest one that we develop. Well, I have 2 more that I'm going to actually share soon, but this one is ready to be shared because I asked TradingView to approve it. You have to go through this process of approval for the indicators. It takes a little bit of time. And what this does, okay, so basically here I made a power law based on MicroStrategy because you can use MicroStrategy to, this is the other way around. We use a Bitcoin as our input, and we say, is there a relationship between Bitcoin and MicroStrategy? Yes, there is. And of course, it's after we started to buy Bitcoin, and because before there was not. And once we started to buy Bitcoin, they look very similar. And in fact, we have a power law. And it's a little bit higher relatively. So MicroStrategy versus Bitcoin is it's more than 1. It's 1.3, something like that. That means basically kind of close to 30% premium that you get by having MicroStrategy relatively to Bitcoin, which is really cool. Other people calculate it in that way, but this is a more direct way of doing it. And then you can make a model, and the blue line is the real price, and the red line, it's a model of if this relationship is true, what the price for MicroStrategy should be. And that is the red line. And in this way, you can, in this moment, you can see that is overvalued. The MicroStrategy is overvalued relatively to Bitcoin. It should be smaller price, even with the premium. The premium is already included in that red line. So we are now having a premium that is even higher. And it could be 2 things. One, that this relationship is changing, and we will monitor it, or maybe that we need a correction in MicroStrategy because right now it's overvalued. We are going to see. But it's a cool indicator, because one approach could be that when it's here, for example, it's an indication that is undervalued. So this will be a very good place whereby to buy a lot of MicroStrategy, because it's undervalued relatively to the relationship we observe between Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. And then maybe you want to sell it when you have a big deviation from this. We could also make an oscillator. I didn't make an oscillator yet, but that will be the next step. Taking basically the difference between these two. And then you can draw a power law. It is the power law that goes through a red line, basically, right? So it's a power law of this enhanced Bitcoin. So if you can think about MicroStrategies like a turbo Bitcoin. In fact, you know how the slope for the power law of Bitcoin is like 5.82 something. This one is more like 7.2. So imagine a Bitcoin that actually has a much higher slope, right? So it goes up faster. So it's cool. Do whatever you want with it. Maybe during the bear market, we can bet against MicroStrategy, so it is going down, and create, buy some put options. Where basically you're betting against, you're betting that the price goes down, and you make money when the price goes down. Again, you can do a combination of different things, and hopefully my goal for you is that you make more and more Bitcoin, and all of us are happy, and that is the goal, right? Okay, guys. This is the presentation. I can stay. I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen. I don't know what is wrong, but the screen is there. Anyway, I can stay another 5 minutes answering any question. It doesn't have to be on the indicators. It can be on the on anything else, the power law, whatever. So I'm going to take a couple of questions, and then we can finish. Anybody? So I think I answered this question here. I'm going to give you the link one more time. If you are interested in getting the indicators and joining our Discord, and hope to see you there. So if I don't have any questions, it means everybody's happy, right? With the presentation. All right, so I will end here, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much to participate. Bye, guys.